what are we doing here? We got GoPro camera gear, DSLRs, gimbals. How did we get all of our footage comfortably? Yeah, that was the big deal. We had this grandiose idea that we would carry this big gimbal with a full-size DSLR and get great video footage, because the gimbal is amazing. It does have great results. Very smooth cinematic footage. It's really a great way to go. But then we started comparing the weights, thinking, uh-oh.
It was significant, yeah, it was.
Yeah, we got to the point where, I mean, we're literally counting ounces trying to get our pack weights down. And we thought we would never be those people. We're just going to take the gear we want to take and have everything we want to have, and we won't worry about it. And we used to hike with 40-pound packs, 30-pound pack, 35-pound pack.
Yeah, it was
it's too much. And 500 miles, you got to cut the weight.
You feel it. So we were contemplating an easier route, which at first we both were a little hesitant about the GoPro.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, you know.
A lot of the GoPro, the earlier ones than we have. We have the GoPro Hero 7 Black. The previous models were the only ones out at the time when we were actually planning this trip. So we thought, well, based on everything that we had seen, we didn't like the in-camera stabilization just wasn't there. It just didn't seem like it was good enough. It was shaky and it just didn't look good. I didn't like it very much. But then we thought, well, let's get a gimbal. Let's get a gimbal for our DSLR. And we did. And we hiked around with it and we loved it. It's a great deal. The camera basically just kind of floats as you go, and your arm is moving around, but the camera is always staying stable and giving you that great cinematic footage, which is awesome. But this setup is 5 pounds. I mean, the camera, the lens, you have the gimbal, it has a small tripod, and the batteries, everything together. This thing is 5 pounds. It's big, it's bulky, but the results were amazing. They were great. I loved it. But that wasn't practical for the Colorado Trail. We had to narrow everything down. You're talking 5 pound setup, and we're coming away with, what did we calculate? Half a pound.
Half a pound for them.
8 ounces for this GoPro Hero 7 Black with a little tripod on the bottom, which it acts as a handle, and it also acts as a tripod. These little feet can open up here, and you can set it on the ground or whatever you need to do. It extends a little bit, not much. There's longer ones out there, but this fit the bill for us, and we thought that'd be great. That'd be perfect, 5 pounds, half a pound. It was a real simple matter. We needed to cut weight. And that's when we looked into we'd heard the GoPro 7 was out, and it had phenomenal in-camera stabilization. We still weren't sold based on the previous models, so we started researching it, seeing other people's videos, looking at the results they were getting, and we started thinking twice. This might be the way to go. I mean, I love the results of the gimbal that we had with our DSLR, and mind you, the DSLR also is a still camera, so you could take it off of that and take great photos. Something we definitely missed out on.
Right, we did.
On the Colorado Trail. We used our phones for a camera, but 500 miles just kept in the back of my head. 500 miles.
Yeah.
6 pounds of camera. We had to cut the weight. There was just no other way around it. So that's when the GoPro Hero 7 Black came into the picture. And we purchased one. Started playing around with it immediately. This was probably, a month, 2 months before?
Yeah, it wasn't.
It wasn't that long before we actually got on the trail, so we wanted to play with it. And we got out there, we took videos. You've seen the videos on the YouTube page. Facebook, Twitter, you've seen the videos. It for what it is, it was perfect. It's extremely lightweight. You know, the footage we got, the in-camera stabilization, it worked great for what it was. Was it 6-pound camera DSLR? No, but it was close and it was good enough, especially for what we were doing. You know, half a pound, there's nowhere to argue there.
Just wanting to lighten the load. It was just a bit much to carry the weight of the other. And we were discussing, divvying the weight, taking what. It became, yeah.
Yeah, when you're counting ounces, that was huge. We had to lighten the load, and that was a great place to do it and still come away with the results that we wanted. Obviously, we produced all the hiking videos, one video for each segment. There were 28 in total. Those were anywhere, I think, 5 minutes on up to, well, probably a half an hour. I think on average they were 15 to 20 minutes apiece.
In total.
Yeah. I mean, when we got home and looked at everything we had about 24 hours of raw footage from 37 days of hiking, which, that doesn't sound like a lot. I went through the math before we went out there and was thinking, gosh, what are we going to need? How are we going to do this? But we'll get into that in a second. But we did. We had probably 24 hours about of raw footage that we had to go through. We produced all 28 segments and came away, I think it was about 8 hours between all 28 segments, all 28 videos that we did. So if you want to binge watch, you've got 8 hours and you're bored to death and it's storming outside, sit down, grab some snacks and some drinks, and you get 8 hours of Colorado Trail.
And it's all Colorado Trail. We didn't have any sort of town footage or...
No, we didn't do any footage of being in town. I kind of wish we would have.
Yeah.
We were busy in town. We were getting cleaned up and taking care of our gear and resupplying. Eating. Definitely lots of food.
Yeah.
But we were busy, and I guess we just never thought about it.
Yeah.
Hindsight, it would have been fun to take video of all that too.
Right, where we stayed.
I mean, that was part of the experience, It's not just hike, which is, 90% of it.
Right.
But, there's a small percentage of in-town experience, which we met up with people, talked to other hikers, kept meeting the same hikers.
In towns,
there was a lot of information passed back and forth in town, but I wish we would have taken more in town. It would have been fun.
Yeah.
So like I think it came down to one battery per day, and there would be days where there would be battery left over. Sometimes it was only a half of a battery, 3/4 of a battery. Rarely did I think we used a whole battery in one day. There was a couple of times we weren't paying attention and we got up and the battery wasn't charged, didn't get replaced, or the cold got to it. The cold kills GoPro batteries bad. But yeah, I mean, we took 5 batteries with us, and we rotated through them. At the end of every day, we would, get in the tent and charge all our gear. Well, the GoPro battery was one of the things we would charge. You could either charge direct into the camera, which was really easy to do. You just, plug the battery in here, and then we would plug it into our power bank here. Or, if we had multiple batteries that needed to be charged, we took a GoPro charger with us. It's a dual port, and between our power bank and this, we would have fresh batteries constantly. It charges really quick. It didn't take long at all to charge those up. In town, we could use this definitely, but it wasn't hard.
Well, question I would have: do you think you would need 5 batteries again? If you went out again, would you take 5?
No.
What would you take?
I mean, the batteries are really small. Let me see one of those. They don't weigh anything. They're really small. They're tiny, and that might be part of the GoPro battery's life problem. But we could get a whole day on one of these, and I would generally use one SD card. It uses the micro SD card for every 2 days. So, a battery per day.
A backup is good to have, though, like we were discussing.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
of
you
the
always
cold.
wanted a backup. I think maybe 3 batteries would be okay, but 5 batteries we had, it was no big deal.
Right.
It doesn't add any weight. They're really light. They don't add anything to your pack. So excess in that department, not a big deal. Not even an ounce of battery probably. They're nothing. It felt good to know you had what you needed because,
Right.
capturing the Colorado Trail for us was important. I mean, this is an epic adventure.
Right.
It's a once in a lifetime for a lot of people. That they might
Years.
do it once and never do it again, and you want to capture that.
We discussed it for years.
Oh yeah.
Planning
It's,
it.
for us, it was a lifetime achievement.
Yeah.
I mean, we're already talking. We want to go back. But some people might not ever go back. But even not, just capturing the experience. They're great memories. We're so glad that we took a GoPro with us and captured all of this on video. It was so amazing. I mean, photos are great, but video,
Yeah.
really capturing the moment, capturing the memories, the trail conditions, everything we were going through, that's the way to go. And this GoPro was perfect for that.
And then the discussion. Oh, what was segment 23? Oh, you popped the video in.
Sure,
And
yeah. Go back and look at it again. It's great.
Right. So definitely worth it.
And the memory cards. I think if I look back on it now, it was like a half a card a day. One card for every 2 days of hiking. I know there were times where we took more footage, but that was probably an average. I mean, there were times, we got in the San Juans, we were blowing through a lot of video.
Right. Yeah.
But these cards were either 64 megabyte micro SDs, and then later, before we even went on the hike, we kind of thought, well, just for safety's sake, let's take some extra cards, because we only had a handful. So we bought some 128 megabyte micro SDs, the SanDisk, and they're really good cards. We've been using them on our DSLRs for years. Very reliable cards. The 64 megabyte card, I kind of would say one a day, but I got more out of it than that. The 128 megabyte card, definitely, easily 2 days worth of footage. It would hold a lot. So we took a lot of them, and I'm sitting here looking at 3 unopened packages that we didn't use. Again, like the batteries, I didn't want to get out there and not have what we needed to take the footage. So overkill, having, I don't know, 3, probably 10 cards maybe, maybe a dozen cards. Was it overkill? Yeah.
And so much depends on how much video you plan to take.
Yeah.
But
No, we had 24 hours of raw footage. And there's a lot of footage that nobody ever saw that we've only seen. It's not great footage, but
some places we took a lot more. We took a lot more video.
Right.
Shot a lot more.
One of the early plans for just using a few cards, 2 cards, 3 cards, was kind of an early on plan, was to take an external hard drive, and then it's a Kingston product. It's basically a hub. So we would put our micro SD card or just SD card out of our camera into this, and then it would transfer all that information onto an external hard drive for us. That was another great way to go. Definitely a lot heavier than a bunch of little micro SD cards that don't weigh anything. This is probably not a pound, but getting close. It's pretty heavy. And then, you would have to really protect these things. An external hard drive, you don't want to bounce that around. This is not a solid state drive. I would not want to bounce that around or drop it or anything. And then the Kingston hub, just want to keep it dry. It's an electronic product. It's got built-in Wi-Fi, which is kind of nice, but you know, these things were just kind of heavy, and I was worried that maybe at some point in time they might break on us. The hub probably not, but an external hard drive, you know, and the ones we have at home here, we put them down and we leave them down. We don't move them. You know, it's we got thousands of photos, you know, on 2 hard drives. We have them doubled. You know, it's kind of nerve-wracking to have electronic photos nowadays and think, well, whatever happens if that hard drive doesn't work.
It's having a backup.
You know,
Backup to your
back
backup.
in the day, everybody had color printed photos, but not practical anymore. A lot easier nowadays in the digital. But yeah, the micro SD cards, we were overkill. You'd have to kind of figure out
What you
how
plan.
much footage you're planning on. I think for us it was like, well, we kind of want an unlimited balance here. We did have to think about it, you know. I think we sat down at one point and thought, okay, we have this many megabytes of space. We have this many days that we're averaging to hike. And if we take, you know, an hour of footage a day.
Well, we went out and, before the hike. We tested
Right,
it. Yeah.
we played with it.
Yeah, we tested
But,
a little bit. Yeah.
you know, early on it was like, if we have an hour of footage a day or 30 minutes of footage a day and we use 15 to 20 to 30 minutes of that footage, how many cards will we need in the end?
Right.
So it was a mathematical equation for us. It worked out. We actually came home with extra cards that we didn't use. Overkill, yeah, I would say overkill every time. You want backups. You want to be able to get out there and say, I've got plenty of space on my
How many
cards.
did we actually use?
Well, we
We
had,
didn't open those, so.
I would say I probably cycled through 6 to 8 of them. You know, and that worked out great. And the batteries, we would just cycle through. Every time we would use a battery, it would go into a plastic bag to be charged either in the tent that night or in town. You know, so I would never use the same battery again in each segment. So, you know, every 3 to 5 days we would get to town and I would take those batteries, even though they might have been charged up, I wouldn't use them again until I cycled through all 5 batteries.
Now, the one problem we did have, and you mentioned it, I think you touched on it, was that the cold temps would affect the battery.
Oh,
So
gosh.
as you were filming, all of a sudden it would just stop
Yeah.
on a really cold morning or whatever.
Temperatures greatly affect GoPro batteries.
But the GoPro battery wasn't drained. It would just.
No.
It would just.
You would be filming, and this is a known problem with GoPro. It's an acceptable problem, I guess, because everybody keeps buying them.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it would be a really cold morning, high 20s, low 30s, and you would always keep the GoPro in your pocket because you don't want those batteries to get cold. Once they get cold, it's like it just stops working.
And we had that happen.
Yeah, and the GoPro would just die on you, and you would think, I charged that battery last night. And lo and behold, you know, down the road later that night, I would get that same battery back out that failed, plug it in to charge it, and it had a full charge. So it's the temperature does something to the batteries to make them stop working, or the camera itself. But we would take in another battery that was warm, that was in my pocket, stick it in the GoPro, and
It's
it would
fine.
work just fine.
Yeah.
So having 5 batteries in that case, really good idea. It was worth overkill having too many batteries because you never knew how these things were going to act. I mean, when the GoPro works, it works great. When it fails because of temperature, yeah, you're not very happy. So you have to stop, unpack, pull out the battery, you know, redo everything, start all over, and yeah, it was a pain, but it only happened occasionally. We learned early on
You anticipated that it might happen.
it might happen, and we would have to keep like an extra battery in our pocket, or I would keep the GoPro in my pocket and take a quick video, and sometimes I would breathe on the camera, you know, with my breath, and I'd stick it back in my camera or start rubbing it or hold it with my hand inside the pocket or whatever, anything to keep it warm so it would keep working. But other than that, I mean, that's probably one of the worst things about the camera that I don't like.
Well, the low
Maybe,
light.
yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Maybe the GoPro 8 that's out now, maybe they've fixed that problem.
They
I
may
don't
have.
know.
They may have. Yeah.
The previous 6 versions to the 7 had battery problems. So, who knows? Maybe it's still an issue. And I think beyond the battery, that's probably the biggest problem. Battery life, I think, has always been an issue for GoPros. That's why I wanted as many as I did. And then the temperature that affects it. But overall, 37 days, we only had a couple of problems.
Yeah.
So not a big deal. As long as we had plenty of batteries, they were always charged every night. I think there was, one time, what was the name of the one lake? You know, you had to hike down to it and come off the trail. And Baldy Lake. In that area, there had been some storms kind of forming and chasing us, and I think we had to turn the camera off at one point, and then we got to Baldy Lake, and you know there was a lot of beetle kill in the area, very few places to camp, and I mean it's like 500 feet down off. Then you hike down off the trail 500 feet, and it's a pretty setting, but there wasn't anywhere to camp. So we had to hike all the way back up, and we were tired. It had been a long day.
Yeah.
And somewhere in the midst of all that, we didn't even really get any footage of Baldy Lake. I think it was just kind of frustrating day for us on trail. And I think we just wanted to go to bed. I don't even think we ate dinner that night.
Yeah, we were concerned a little bit about the campsite just because we couldn't find a place without dead trees, and we were trying to find the best possible place amongst the dead trees, the best we could find.
It was a frustrating night. I remember that.
Yeah, it was.
It was one of the places that I had built up in my mind was going to be so dramatic and spectacular, and it wound up being a big bummer on the trail. You know, I mean, you dream of this place and you think about it, and your imagination is just going wild thinking about this really cool lake that's in this bowl surrounded by mountains, and the whole thing was a bummer. It's like, darn, man, what happened?
Met nice people there, though.
Oh, yeah, we met some great people.
That was the good part, but other than that, yeah.
We didn't get any footage, and then the next morning I remember getting up, and we started hiking, and I don't know, I wasn't even paying attention or something. I had not charged the battery, and the same battery from the day before was still in the camera.
Oh.
And it had died on us, and I remember that later that night, you know, getting in, not even later that night, it was somewhere along the trail. I even have footage of us talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
We realized that the battery was dead, and we were like, oh no, you gotta be kidding. We thought we were filming, but we weren't. But that was our fault, or definitely my fault for not paying attention. But it worked out.
Yeah.
Two other things I can think of. Low light stabilization. Early on in the trail, segment 1, Indian Creek Trailhead, because it was early in the morning, it was cloudy. We were under a pretty thick canopy of trees. It seemed like the stabilization just didn't kick on. And the first video we took actually doesn't start out great.
Because of that, yeah.
And you're thinking, oh, I hope these videos get better, you know. Hopefully everybody sticks through and keeps watching. Because they do get better. But early on, that first morning, segment 1, it wasn't good footage. The low light, and it really wasn't that cold. I mean, it was cold, but not that cold.
Right.
And it just seemed like the stabilization never kicked in. I don't know what happened, other than maybe it was too dark, and that might have been what it was, because it really never happened again after that. Maybe once here and there, but nothing noticeable. So I don't know what had happened there, other than it was low light, and we were in a thick canopy of trees, and it just seemed like the stabilization maybe doesn't kick on. because it needs to access more light to the camera, and it might have something to do with internal settings or something. But other than that, you know, I don't think we had a problem with it. We hiked in the dark with our headlamps on, but that was completely pitch black. So
right, that was,
you know, I have to
early,
go
early
back
morning,
and
yeah.
see if the stabilization was affected by those, but I don't think it was.
I don't remember it, that we can
But
look.
you know, totally different hiking in the dark. You know, there's nothing that you can really see to make it seem like it's stable anyway. So
Yeah.
hiking in the dark didn't seem like it was a problem. The other one, the camera itself has microphones all around it, really sensitive. So if you're holding the actual camera itself, you could be covering the microphones up. Or if your hand, I mean, if it just moves a little bit, you hear it on video. It's very sensitive. So, you know, we opted, first and foremost, let's get something we can hold on to so we do not touch the camera. But even with this little handle here, I realized that if your hand is moving on this,
You can hear the sound.
it picks it up even
Yeah.
on the microphone. So using the GoPro, you want to have your hand firm and not moving around at all to keep that noise out of your video, because it will pick it up. It's kind of annoying. You get home and you're like, got this great footage, and all of a sudden you're like,
What's that sound?
what's that sound? Oh, that's terrible. But yeah, the microphones all the way around it, very sensitive, which was another reason we also worried about wind. Being exposed above tree line in Colorado, the wind is just constant, it seems. Even low winds can affect cameras. So we got these little, gosh, I don't know, they're little pieces of foam. They just actually fit over the whole camera, and they have hole cutouts for the lens in the back and all the buttons that you need to access. It's just a little piece of foam. I think it's called like a wind jammer or something like that. There's several of them on the market. We got them through Amazon, pretty cheap. You get 2 of them for $7 to $10, or sometimes you'll get one for $7 to $10. Just depends on the quality of the foam itself.
But it works well.
Oh yeah, it
You
worked
notice
great.
a difference, yeah.
I do remember a couple of times further on in the trail, because I'd taken this on and off so many times, it was starting to crack. And so it didn't fit as tight on the camera, and it was like Black Hawk Pass. I remember.
Yeah,
I remember the footage. This foam piece had cracked so bad, and I needed to put a new one on. We did carry several, but I hadn't put it on yet. It had cracked so bad that it was sliding around, and you can see it in some of the footage that we have. I don't think we ever actually shared some of that footage, but it was pretty bad. You could start to see the foam covering up the lens and coming into view, and that was kind of a real bummer, because Black Hawk Pass was cool.
Yeah,
But
it's very cool.
something to think about with these foam. You don't need them all the time. It does, I guess, in some degree, add a level of protection to the camera. But I would also notice the camera got really warm.
Oh, it did, yes.
With this on it. So above tree line or in windy conditions, I would use the foam. When you're not in those conditions, I wouldn't bother with it at all. Just to save the life of this and keep the camera cooled off too. So that was kind of another thing I can remember. Not a big deal, but it was kind of a pain.
Yeah.
It got in the way of some of the footage.
Find
Speaking of getting in the way of footage, what was the other piece that we used? We tried early on. It's on my backpack there. It's a little, I don't know, what would you call that? It's like a little bracket. It fits on the backpack strap, and you basically just clip the GoPro onto it, and it's practical. It works okay. For me, not so practical. In the wind, And this was before we got on the Colorado Trail. We never actually used that on the Colorado Trail. We decided not to take it. Um, my beard would get blown in front of the camera.
Yeah. And it would,
And
pieces of
you
hair.
would see all this footage of us hiking, and this hair just keeps going in front of the camera lens, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's not very usable.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of comical, but that didn't really work well.
You also had an issue with determining if you would turn it on. You'd hit the button and you were thinking, well, how do I know for sure? Since I can't see the back of the screen.
Yeah.
The screen.
It would be here, and I knew if I pushed the button to press the power button to start the video,
it would come on, but
you know, it was kind of like, well, is it on or isn't it on? So I would actually tip the camera down to look at it, and then tip it back up, and I never knew if I had it in a really good position or not. Hindsight, I think I would probably wished we would have taken it with us, because there was a couple of times on trail where we needed both trekking poles. You know, Slide Rock,
yeah.
In segment 28, a very loose scree
There was
field that you had to
another-
cross, dangerous. You wanted both your trekking poles.
Another was, I forget what segment, but it had a similar sort of Slide Rock.
Yeah, there was another segment that, I mean, I didn't even film it.
Right.
We were standing there, and before we started walking, I said, I got to turn this off. I needed my trekking poles. I mean, it was just too dangerous. The slope was really steep, and it was loose scree underfoot, and you needed trekking poles.
Yeah.
So holding this would not have been practical. I wouldn't have felt safe doing that. So
It would have been great to have that during that time.
having that,
Yep.
yeah, that would have been great.
So you would have taken it in hindsight, but
Yeah, and, you know, a couple other places. You know, it was kind of funny going across Indian Trail Ridge. Because it was so beautiful,
yeah.
you just kept looking everywhere. And I'm trying to film at the same time I'm just looking. I kept tripping. And my foot would get caught in something.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I had in the back of my mind, well, I hope I don't walk off this knife edge. That would have been good at that time too, because I think if I would have had both my poles, I would have felt more secure. But I didn't really feel secure walking across there with no poles and holding the camera. I did it anyway, but I think I would have had that with me, and that would have been enabled me to, you know, have my trekking poles and feel more secure walking across there.
We can look up, I don't know what brand, I'm sure there's all sorts of brands, but...
It's called Polar Pro.
Okay.
The Polar Pro strap mount.
And you like that one?
Yeah, I liked it. It's very sturdy on the pack. It tightens down really well.
It's easy to remove.
It's easy to remove. It has a little bar that you kind of pull, and it snaps out, and then it snaps back in place. It's a learning curve. You know, you got to kind of feel for it because you can't see, or you know, I get beard in the way. I can't see anything anyway. But it wouldn't come out. So if I leaned over, it's locked in place. It's not going to fall out. So I think in the future we'll probably experiment with it some more and play with it.
Maybe just secure your beard. So
Definitely, you know, put a rubber band in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good item. I would wish we would have taken it several times. I wish I would have had it. But, you know, I don't know. It's just something that got left behind.
Yeah, but recommend it if someone else...
Definitely. The Polar Pro
yeah.
strap mount it would have been a good item to have on the Colorado Trail as a tool to use with a GoPro.
Would you have still wanted this?
I would have taken this, yeah, definitely.
You still would have wanted
This acts as not only something that I can reach out or change my angles,
or you can set it out, use the tripod.
but you can use the tripod part of this. And this is a GoPro, just a mini tripod. It works great. It's lightweight, didn't weigh anything. It's real sturdy. Definitely liked having this a lot. You know, there were times when, you know, I mean, you can't hold the camera, so you got to put it on something. And you know, there was times when I would like put it behind me so I could film you coming up behind me, and I love those. Those are great segments on some really spectacular pieces of trail. When you're able to kind of get a different angle of, you know, seeing what's behind you and then you coming up from behind me. I enjoyed having this just for that part, and then you could just, you know, flip it around.
Right.
But give yourself time while you're doing that, because you'll pick up that noise. But otherwise, that, you know, that was a good little product. I definitely enjoyed having that. We got that from GoPro. Okay, so. Settings. Definitely kind of important. Not something I want to do on trail. The screen and interface on the back of these, it's a touch screen. Kind of confusing. You got to kind of flip it around. It's really small. Usable, you know, but you got to kind of go slow and figure it out. But they're there. Kind of go through it, get used to it, you know, learn your camera before you go out, so you know. But we had some settings that we knew we were going to use and wanted to keep it that way, because obviously we had gone out prior to the Colorado Trail with this and tested it out and liked the results. But there were some settings that has the super wide view or the wide view, and then there's linear mode. You know, the super wide, it feels like a fisheye, kind of distorts things on the edges. Not real thrilled with that. The wide view we didn't use. We wound up going with linear. It definitely a more cinematic look to your videos. So this is about personal preference, really. You know, play around with the different settings in that department and see what you like. Again, linear mode was definitely more cinematic. We just kind of like that look better. It's something that we use a lot. So that's kind of how we went with that. We set it to 1080p, 60 frames a second, instead of using the 4K. And the main reason for that is battery life. Even our DSLRs, you put it on 4K and that thing will just eat a battery alive. It uses a lot of power, and you know, you're out there on the Colorado Trail, we're trying to conserve power. Now if you want to use 4K, I'm sure it would be great, but you'd be limited in the amount of battery and card space. Your SD cards are going to get eaten alive as well. So if you want 4K,
you can gauge it, I'm sure.
You got to think a lot less footage.
Or just have more batteries. Have more batteries.
Yeah, more batteries, more cards.
Yeah.
Sure, why not? You know, 4K would be fine in that department, but you know, I don't think 4K is really all that yet. Not a lot of people are necessarily using it. 1080p, 4K. I don't see a big difference there, especially in an outdoor footage. You know, it wasn't a pro DSLR, so you know it's an action camera. 1080p worked great. It extended the battery life. It extends the life of the card. So it was a personal choice to go that route. The videos look fine for what they are. You know, using a sports action camera, they look fine. The results were good for us, and we're happy with them. Other options that we went, auto stabilization, a must, just a must. Pro Tune was on, auto shutter, white balance was on auto. Our ISO set to a minimum of 100, maximum of 800. I think anything above 800, you know, can start to granulate too much and it's not that good a video. But let it, you know, choose that, a minimum of 100, maximum of 800. The sharpness was on medium. I think we tested with sharpness on high, and it just kind of looked funny at certain times.
Right.
The medium is a great middle ground. And then, you know, we used GoPro's color the entire time. We didn't even play. I don't even think we played with any of the videos. Post production.
No, I don't think.
We didn't do anything to them. We didn't put them into Photoshop or anything.
Premiere Pro, yeah.
Premiere Pro. All we did was slice and dice and pick what segment of the video we wanted. We didn't do anything to them, so they're untouched, other than what the GoPro camera does to them in camera. We didn't do anything else to them. So overall, I thought it was a great camera choice. You know, not carrying a 5-pound DSLR. You know, that I think if you think about it, that would have got old. And then, you know,
Yeah.
this thing is also, you can dunk it underwater. So if it would have been raining, it would have been fine. You wouldn't have had any issues with the moisture whatsoever. It would have been great for that. A DSLR, on the other hand, we have two of them. One of them is really nice, weather sealed, a metal body. It can take it. The other one is not so much so. It's an older camera, great for video, but not as weather sealed as the other camera. So, you know, if we would have taken that, you know, it would have been one of these.
Right.
It's a plastic bag that you actually put over the whole camera and the gimbal assembly and everything, and then cinch it around the lens. Kind of a pain to use, but it will protect your camera. So that's another reason the GoPro was great.
Mm-hmm. We were concerned about the weather potentially getting
yeah.
to the DSLR.
In hindsight,
Yeah.
no weather.
We had great weather,
we
so
had
yeah.
incredible weather on the Colorado Trail. I don't know how we got in that bubble, but we did.
got into a great bubble.
It was amazing weather.
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah.
GoPro Hero 7 Black, well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Worth every penny. Yeah. Still works great. Still runs great. You know, there's some incentives out there to buy the Hero Black 8. But this one works great. I mean, they'll give you a credit for this camera if you turn it back in to upgrade to the 8. I haven't looked into the 8. I don't know what it does better than this one. But we're so used to the Hero 7 now, you know, it works great. It's amazing. The in-camera stabilization, to me, was shocking.
Yeah.
Because the previous versions were bad, and you saw most of those people buying small gimbals for their GoPro camera.
Right.
And I'm like, we already have a gimbal and a camera. We're not going to go down that road.
Right.
And I'm glad the 7 came out, because the in-camera stabilization is what sold us on this camera. It was that good. You know, perfect, no. But definitely that good to sway us from taking our full-size DSLR and shaving 4.5 pounds of weight down to a 0.5 pound. Worth every penny that we spent on it. We would definitely use this camera again, and we'll continue to. We've got trips planned for this summer, and we're going to be taking the Hero 7 with us again. So talking about safety items, got to bring out our trekking poles, because that was a big tool on the trail for sure. We originally started out both going to use these collapsible Z-style poles from, I say knock, I've heard it said Canuck. Knock, would you please verify that with us? I like these poles. They're super lightweight. I took the strap off mine. So I didn't want the strap any added weight. I just wanted the pole. They're made of carbon. Very lightweight. Very durable. I put them through the works. I never used poles that often before this hike. And I did. I wavered back and forth. I'm not taking them. I'm taking them. I'm not taking them. So having a pair of lightweight poles was paramount for me because I don't hike with them that often. But after this trail, I think I'll probably start using them more.
Well, we knew we needed poles because we needed the poles for the tent.
Yeah,
Which I had mine. We
our
had mine.
Z-Pax duplex tent requires poles to set it up, so somebody had to have some hiking
and
poles.
I would, for sure.
But now that I've used these, I probably will continue to do so. Definitely a couple of times you want poles anyway in certain situations.
Water crossings.
Water crossings, loose scree, talus slopes, slippery conditions if there's ice, snow, nothing like that we came across a whole lot, but we did. There was muddy times. Any time where traction is really a question, a trekking pole was huge. It helped a lot. And then it takes pressure off your knees.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never thought about it. And I know you studied that and looked into it, and
yeah,
I did. I felt more comfortable, I think, at the end of the day after having a trekking pole all day long. I did a lot of the camera work, so I didn't always have these handy. They're collapsible, Z-style, which I like a lot because when I put them in my pack, they just collapse down to nothing. And you could barely see them in the side of my pack, which I liked. I didn't like anything sticking up high and feeling like it could get caught on something or just kind of moving on me. So these were great. They're not making them anymore. They've retooled and redesigned, and from what I gather, every component now of their pole is made here in the United States. So we're anxious to see the new poles that these guys are putting out. These were awesome, so I can only expect that the new ones are going to be even better. Right now they're just using the telescoping, so I'm going to be waiting on the Z-style poles knock. I'm going to want these, so let's get the ball rolling because I'm a firm believer in poles now, and I like your poles. So other than that, you couldn't use them. Interesting, a learning curve.
Right.
You do like them, and they felt really good, but the minimum height was too tall for you.
It was too tall, and I would find that when I would try to set it lower and use them, they would collapse.
Yeah, and that was kind of weird. I don't know if that's an internal thing with the pole, the design. Maybe the new ones are better this time around, but I used them at the minimum line on the pole here and never had any collapsing issues or anything like that. But you had to set them further down below the minimum line.
And that created issues, yeah.
So I guess, we did contact them and we talked to them and they didn't know and we didn't know. But after continuing to hike...
I'm petite, so...
Yeah. The minimum line for me worked great, but you had to have it below that. So that's probably where the problem internally, something wasn't lining up good. I don't know. But other than that, superior pole, awesome pole, really good. We used not only this pole but your pole to set up the tent. Both worked great in that department. Z-style pole can be a little, I don't know, challenging if you're hiking and need a pole really quick. You can't just pull it out and pull out the telescoping sections. You've got to kind of work through it, and get everything lined up, and then it doesn't take a whole lot to do it, but I don't think it's as fast as a telescoping pole.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't have any issues with it whatsoever, and especially one that I didn't need a pole. Folding it up and putting it in my pack was great because it didn't take up any room. The weight on mine, and I did take the strap off, a tad over 14 ounces, so under a pound for the two, which I thought was really good. I'd say on average most poles are over a pound, so I was able to shave a few more ounces there. I thought they were great. And for you, we kept looking at leaky poles and black diamond poles. And I think ultimately we wanted to go with the black diamond. And other than the price, they seemed like the pole that was going to work great for you. And then we had heard from a few people that Cascade Mountain Tech, this brand, came in real similar to the Black Diamond,
They were great
but
poles.
a third of the price.
$29.99.
Yeah, and we picked them up at Costco.
I think it's probably less than a third of the price.
We saw them at Costco, and the price was excellent. So we thought, well, we could gamble for that price.
Yeah, I'm willing to try it.
We bought several pairs of them.
Yeah, we did. And they're great. I love them. I actually have no issues with them at all.
And you wound up liking them a lot.
Yeah, they were great. I mean, they held up well, did the job well. I love the cork grips. You know, I like that part. I kept the straps. I use the straps though. I do tend to, you know, I'll put my hand through it. So no, I don't know much more I can say about it. But this was a great pull, and
Well, you also had
$30. You can't beat it.
2 places on both our poles. Mine are the foam grips on both. You have the cork and then the foam low.
Right. Yeah.
But you use your poles pretty much the entire trip.
The entire trip, yeah. I don't think I ever put them away, that I recall.
Never had an issue whatsoever. We used them to set up our tent. We used mine to set up the tent. Either one worked really well. Yep. I was shocked that these poles were, in my opinion, the exact replica of the Black Diamond, but a third of the price.
That was a third. We got $30 for these, so.
Well, the Black Diamonds are probably $200.
Yeah, so it's less than a third. Yeah.
So you know, to get the same pole, in my opinion, for that much money,
it was worth the gamble. I thought it was worth
definitely worth the gamble.
And it's great.
So Cascade Mountain Tech survived the entire Colorado Trail. No hitches, no bumps, no problems. You like these poles.
I like them a lot, yeah.
So, yeah.
Probably the best I've had.
Good job, Cascade.
And the weight it was just under a pound.
Yeah, the weight on this is under 16 ounces.
15, I don't remember exactly.
Gosh, I don't even remember.
Yeah, it was under 16. It was 15.
But
but I kept my straps on because I used my straps.
Again, another carbon pole.
Yeah.
So lightweight and very durable. I wish I would have had the cork grips, but they didn't have them, so I just took the foam, and actually that was fine. Your handle feels bigger to me than mine. Mine feels a little thinner. But still not an issue. Not an issue whatsoever.
Yeah, it wasn't an issue, though.
I like them both.
Yeah.
I think if I had to choose between the two, I would definitely go with the Knock again.
Yeah.
I really like these poles a lot, but it's the Z style as well. And I like how they fold up to nothing and they weigh nothing.
That was a big deal for you to have this sort of compact in your pack.
Yeah, everything. I didn't want anything in my pack moving.
Well,
and I wanted everything very small and.
Well, it goes to the umbrella. Down. The umbrella.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the umbrella being taller, and you wanted the umbrella smaller. So that was the reason we went with different umbrellas.
Yeah. Our umbrellas were like our poles, really. Well, mine's back there somewhere. This one was yours. We got that from Gossamer Gear. And it was, the Light Trek, something or other.
I remember, yeah. Great little.
You know, they're the silver material, so very reflective. We used them in the rain. We used them in the sun. And they both worked really well to keep the sun off, to keep you in the shade. They kept the rain and small pellets of hail off of us. Very lightweight, super lightweight umbrellas. You know, other than the size, again, I wanted everything really compact. And, you know,
I don't know what the weight difference is.
There's really not.
I don't think there's a weight difference, really.
There's not a weight difference. These are ridiculously lightweight. You would think they wouldn't work, but they do. I mean, this is not your standard umbrella you're going to see somebody walking around in the city with. It's not that. It's extremely lightweight. You know, it keeps the sun off while you're hiking, but as well, you know, if you're taking a break during the day, you can use this to shade yourself sitting down on the ground or, you know, just kind of lounging around. So, other than wind, you know, because they're so lightweight, the wind seemed to want to make them take off and fly. I think that's a problem with any umbrella.
Yeah, it's true.
Uh, we didn't have a whole lot of wind, so it wasn't that big a deal. But
Not when we wanted to use it. It really wasn't.
we didn't use it that much.
Not really. Segment 2.
Segment 2 in the sun, wonderful. Around Twin Lakes in the sun, wonderful. The few times that it did rain, it was great to be able to, I didn't think I would like just putting over a rain hat and walking in the rain, because the rain still hits you in the face. So having a really light umbrella, and we found a way we could attach them to our straps as well on our backpacks and still have our hands free if we needed to hike with our poles.
Yeah.
Was really great.
Velcro straps.
Because it didn't feel like it was in the way. It wasn't heavy. It didn't become cumbersome at all.
Yeah.
So mine.
The same principle applies for your things. You want things compact.
Yeah.
And that,
And I got mine from Six Moons Designs. Great little umbrella. These guys make some interesting products. Like to check out more of their things. And then Gossamer Gear,
Yeah.
we always know those guys are going to have some really great products.
Right.
And this was a great umbrella. So
Yeah.
these go on our packs wherever we go with our rain gear. We use the Frog Togs rain gear. It's cheap, it's lightweight, and keeps you dry. That's what it needs to do. These are always in our packs. You never know. It could be really sunny and hot, or it could be raining. You don't know. They don't weigh anything. They don't take up a lot of room. So we'll always carry umbrellas in our packs. We never thought we would, but with these products and their designs and the weight savings, really good. Definitely use them in the future. So what other safety items did we have in our bag? Bear spray. 12 ounces, never used it. Dead weight. To take bear spray or not take bear spray, I think that comes in the same question as, do I take a bear bag or do I take a bear canister? Odds of seeing a bear, I don't think are that high. In Colorado, the black bear don't want an encounter with you any more than you want one with them. They're fun to see. They're neat to see. They're beautiful animals. But most times, if you come across a black bear, he's headed in the opposite direction you are.
Which is what I saw.
Yeah, you got to see one that way. I didn't get to see one the entire Colorado
I saw
Trail.
his tush leaving the trail.
Yeah, he saw you, and that was the end of that. If you want to see one, just leave a whole lot of food outside your tent on the ground at night.
Always a good idea.
Put some food inside your tent. At least some really
Peanut butter.
full-bodied peanut butter laying
Yeah,
around,
that'd be good.
and
Open a jar.
it's probably a good possibility you might have a bear encounter, but it's not a big deal. This isn't the Pacific Northwest or Alaska. This isn't grizzly country. These are black bears. They're not going to come in your tent and eat you. It's just
I
not.
worry about cats than I do.
Yeah,
bears.
we worried more about mountain lions. As far as our food goes, we hung it, in the bear-proof bag, and it was to keep it not only safe from bears, but I think mostly other critters. There's a lot of small animals out there that want the food just as much as any other animal does, and if you don't have a bag or a bear can that will protect your food from them, if you use something really lightweight, a lot of people do, they're going to eat through the bag. So you need something better than that. But the bear spray, designed to keep a bear attack from happening, but you could ward off a mountain lion. You could ward off just about anything that breathes air, because this is going to mess with them bad. And you want to study up on this and learn about it if you're going to have it. It's like having a gun. You want to use it responsibly and have it responsibly and know how to use it, properly. And there's a lot of information on UDAP's site about how to use bear spray safely. So I'd highly recommend learning about that. Odds are you'll never use it. But in the event that you do, you want to know what you're doing, before you pull the trigger, because you could make a bad situation worse. So, safety for you and different ways. Learn how to use this, and if you know how to use it and you feel comfortable with it, it's safety against predators out there or animals that are just curious. Uh, you don't want an animal to think it's okay to come around a camp and get food, so don't hesitate to scare them away. It's only 12 ounces, and it's a nice peace of mind in your bag. This is the second time we've bought bear spray. The first time we came to the expiration date, and we don't have it anymore, but we never use that one either, so hopefully we never will. But it is peace of mind on the trail. It's nice to have. What did you use in the middle of the night or in the early morning to go to the bathroom?
What did I use?
Can you see in the dark?
What did I use? No. I think this is the one I had. I had the gray one.
They're both the same.
They're both, yeah.
Mine's an older version.
Yeah.
Yours is a newer version.
But we used the Black Diamond headlamp. And yeah, I would say it's worth having a headlamp. We use it quite a bit. We use it, I guess, here or there.
It's the Black Diamond Cosmo.
Cosmo.
It's really lightweight.
It's very lightweight.
3 ounces
has different
maybe.
settings. I don't want to try to.
Yeah, different light settings.
Yeah.
You have the red light setting. You have a flash.
Yeah.
But you don't need a lantern on the trail. These are heavy. They're very bright. These are little Black Diamond lights. They work great.
But you don't need
But honestly, you don't need them. At the end of a long day of hiking, all you want to do is lay down and sleep. You're going to get up the next day and do it again. So you don't need a whole lot of light. A headlamp works great.
This works great. You get up in the morning, you have to go out and relieve. This is a great
early
thing.
in the morning for that bathroom break.
Right.
We started hiking in the dark a few times.
Yeah.
It was good for that. Especially, we hiked through some avalanche debris that one early morning, and it was pitch black, and we got to the debris field, and we were so happy that we had our headlamps on, because it was an interesting and comical maneuvering through there. So we were happy to have them.
If you're in the tent at night and it gets dark,
Yeah.
we were asleep usually by the time it was dark.
Yeah, by the time it was dark, we were out.
Yeah.
But, you could wake up in the middle of the night and hear something and wonder what the heck it was and turn on your light.
Cowgate.
But yes, there was Cowgate.
Yeah. So
One of the last nights on trail.
the last night. Mm-hmm.
And there was a group of us. We had bumped into each other several times on the trail. And we knew there were cows in the area. We just didn't know that they were going to walk through our camp at night. Was probably one of the most hilarious moments on trail we had.
Yeah.
Everybody was cracking up, and everybody was getting out of their tents. Everybody was flashing their headlamps all over the woods, because we just heard these cows crunching. They're walking through this little ravine area where we were camped, and mind you, it was probably the worst campsite we had.
Oh, it was awful.
It was so bad, it was funny.
Yeah. I'd wake up, I'd slide to the end of the tent.
Cowgate just added to it.
It did.
But,
It was fun.
The headlamps were fun.
Yeah, it was good to have.
They were like spotlights, anti-aircraft, lights going off, because everybody's looking for the cows, and they were walking through our camp at night. But they never came back. We fell asleep. It was over.
It was
but
cows.
it was funny, and we
Cows are good.
we came away with a good story. But headlamp is all you need for light on trail. You won't need anything else. Very rare did we even need it.
Yeah.
They used AAA batteries. Never replaced them once. These are still the same batteries.
We haven't replaced them.
We put brand new batteries in before we went on the hike, and you can see that these are
They're strong.
still as strong as day one. We just didn't use them that much. So you don't need a lantern. You just need a headlamp, and that's all you'll ever need. Great to have, again, peace of mind in case you need some light. You know, if your headlamp didn't work, you could use your phone
You could, yeah,
in a pinch.
yeah.
But it just didn't happen. You know, you slept at night, you hiked during the day. You know, that's really all there was to it. Uh, One of the biggest items for safety was our Garmin inReach. We got the Garmin inReach Explorer Plus. There's a mini version now. Um, Really, the only difference that the mini version is the weight and the battery life.
But I've heard it's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I've heard people say that it works well, the mini.
The mini works well. The
Mm-hmm.
full size works well. Uh, there might have been one time on trail where we came to a junction and there were several socials. One went to a campground, one went to a creek, one was the actual trail, and then there was a couple more that just kind of disappeared to who knows where. Uh, we knew where we were and we didn't, you know, so we thought, well, shoot, we got a Garmin with us. Let's pull it out, because I didn't see a confidence marker in a tree anywhere. So, you know, it would have been a matter of time if we chose the wrong one, but they all kind of intertwined anyway. But we turned on our Garmin and we chose the path that we thought would probably be the right one anyway. It's pretty obvious out there, and it was. And we just tracked ourselves. As we moved along, the Garmin kept up with us and showed us exactly on trail. Actually, you know, we would use the app on our phone. We would turn on the Garmin and just throw it in our backpack and never touch it again, because
We use the phone.
we
Yeah.
use the screen on our phone to do anything you can do with your Garmin. They just pair through Bluetooth, and the app works great. I loved it. I thought it was great, because we used our phone for a camera. So the phone was something we always had around. And then the Colorado Trail Gut Hooks app is something that we looked at a lot too. So our phone was probably one of the biggest items we used the most.
Yeah.
But the Garmin inReach, again, peace of mind. To find yourself on trail, we used it to text in, and people texted to us, and then we texted out to people, because you don't always have phone service. But the Garmin uses the Iridium satellite network, so we always were able to text in and out. We had family and friends tracking us on trail.
They knew where we were all
When our
times.
Garmin was on, they knew exactly where we were. They could go to the Garmin map on their computers and see exactly where we were and track us throughout the day. It was kind of fun for a lot of people that were curious where we were. A few times we were wondering about the weather for the next day. We would come up to mountain passes and set ourselves up for a climb early in the morning, or you know, it could have been later in the day and we were concerned about thunderstorms, but you could check the weather on here as well and get a really nice, accurate weather report for the location you were at. So that always worked well too. We only used it a couple of times. Our weather wasn't bad, so.
And they had presets where we'd send presets to people
Yeah.
that we'd have set. So we'd say, okay, we're
We're on trail, we're off trail, we're going into town is basically what we
we're
did.
stopping for the night.
Yeah.
So everyone knew, okay, now they're stopping for the night.
It was
So.
easy. There's several packages you could choose for Garmin as far as a monthly price goes, but definitely worth it. If you're one that only hikes occasionally, you can activate it and then put it into a sleep mode, more or less, where it's a very small, minimal fee to just keep your account active, but not where you're using it. So the Garmin is, I would never hike without it.
I like having it. It feels good to know that
People know where we are, and we know where we are.
and people can get a hold of us or vice versa.
Yeah, if there's an
need be.
emergency and they need to contact us, they
Yeah.
can contact us through this.
Right.
And then if we have an emergency,
As an SOS.
there's an SOS feature on the Garmin, and if you hit it, they're coming. So, you know, it has a nice cover. I think some of the older models didn't have a cover, and it could accidentally get hit, and people didn't even know they did it. And all of a sudden, they're surrounded by, you know, emergency services wanting to know what the problem is. But
Yeah.
the newer versions have a cover. You have to physically move that out of the way. But that was something that was really nice to know, that if we had some kind of issue on trail, because there were times we didn't see anyone for days, and we were in some pretty remote places, especially in the San Juans. To know that if we had a problem, we could hit an SOS button and someone would come for us. That was good to know. It felt good to know that somebody had our backs out there. So definitely worth its weight in gold, no doubt. Other than that, we had a small first aid kit. And it wasn't a whole lot of things.
Well, I found I could take less than what I had originally packed. All these little things in here. The most important thing I felt that I needed, that I used, we took ibuprofen and acetaminophen, just to have two options. I did use antihistamine.
Right.
When I have reactions, I have reactions to mosquito bites.
Right.
I took Band-Aids. I never used them, but we had a few Band-Aids. Couldn't hurt, just in case.
I don't think we used anything but maybe a couple of Advil.
That's really it. Advil
we kept Leuco tape in here.
Okay, I have, because of the Achilles, I was walking a little funny.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting a blister on my right foot because of it. And I ended up putting this second skin on top of it,
that
on top of the blister,
great.
With the Leuco tape.
And that worked really
and
good.
And the Leuco on top of that, and it, no pain.
I didn't
perfect.
have blisters the entire trail. I thought there was one forming at one time. Yeah. And I put some of that tape on that area because it felt hot.
The Leuco tape really does work if you don't have any issues with the adhesive.
Yeah, and I never actually had a blister, but it was just that one time, and I thought, okay, if I'm going to get a blister, that's probably going to be the spot. So I just left the tape on there for the rest of the trail, and I never got a blister. It was amazing.
Leuco tape, again, it works great. Some people say they have issues with the adhesive.
Yeah.
They react to it. I don't.
Well, I just left it on there. I didn't pull it off.
Well, they just say they can have a
reaction. Just
reaction.
wait for it to come off.
But they just have a reaction in general. But I didn't. And when I did have it was a pretty bad blister. This second skin, which I had never heard of, actually.
That worked. You said you really enjoyed having that.
I put it on top of the blister with the Leuco tape on top of it, and no pain. And
then
I had
we did keep some tape on our. We kept tape on our poles as well.
Right. Yeah.
We just wrapped them around the shafts on our poles, and we never pulled it off, so it's still there.
I also carried like little packets of
ointment.
Ointment. I had antibacterial type ointment in case you were to get a cut.
Yeah, but we never used anything. I never used it,
but it's good to have Band-Aid and some sort of cream in case you were to get a cut.
The little first aid kit there, we put it in a Z-Packs bag.
I could have scaled it down a little bit, not had quite so much.
Everything in there is probably in little bags just to keep it separated, but
yeah, it's really,
the Z-Packs bag kept everything dry. Mm-hmm. It's another Dyneema product made by Z-Packs. Really nice, lightweight, cinches closed. Just throw it in your pack. You don't even know it's there. So amazing that we never really used anything.
I didn't need that.
There was stuff that we took that we thought, well, what if? And
it was a little overkill, but
never used it.
But it's good to have.
But it was lightweight. It was scaled back to very minimal.
Mm-hmm, it's minimal.
And every 3 to 5 days you're going to be in a town.
And
if you need something,
you can get it in town.
Just about anything in this bag you could get in a town.
Yeah.
So having a big giant first aid kit on the trail, not worth it. Too heavy, too bulky.
And what I did have as well, and I think it's important to have, is anti-diarrheal. And that's really important to have.
Thank God we didn't need that.
Yeah, but that is important to have because it does happen, and it could happen, and that can really, create issues. So to have some sort of, digestive aid like that would be good.
But again, like the weather, we just, had really good luck. We did a lot of studying before we went on the trail, so I guess it all paid off.
Yeah, yeah, it did.
Hi. So how did we keep all of our electronics charged? That was a big one for us. Do you take extra batteries? What do you do? Luckily, everything that we had, with the exception of our black diamond headlamps, those use batteries. Everything else is rechargeable lithium-ion batteries. So, you know, we wanted to use these products. We didn't want to use them sparingly. We wanted to use them. Our phones we used for communication. We used it to pair with our Garmin.
Gut hooks.
We used the Gut Hooks app. We used them, you know, to take
pictures.
We used them when we would get signals. We would make phone calls or text, or even update some of our social media sites, you know, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We would send updates with our phones. So we used our phones a lot. So, you know, keeping these charged up was paramount. And then, of course, our Garmin was constantly on, so we always wanted to charge there. So that's two things. And then we had our GoPro, which we were using all day as well, and we needed to keep that juiced up. You know, it uses lithium batteries. They pop in and out. So, you know, at the end of the day, it would be like, we got to charge two phones. We got to charge our Garmin. We got to charge our GoPro. We need something that can handle the juice for two people, you know, for at the minimum, you know, 3 to 5 days on trail till you get to a town. And, you know, obviously you can charge everything back up again. But your brick has to last that long. Now we went with Anchor. You know, its name precedes it. These are great products that Anchor puts out. They have a really good track record. A lot of people like them. A lot of people use them. Drawback on this:
It's heavy.
it's a brick. I mean, this thing weighs over a pound. It's heavy. It's durable. We kept this thing protected though. This is something that went in our bag, inside a dry bag, in a padded case on top of it. And we protected this thing a lot because it was, you know, the heart of our power. It's the Anchor Power Core Plus, I think 26,800 PD is what they call it. This was enough juice for two people, no doubt. 3 to 5 days on trail, we always had power. We never, you know, used anything sparingly. So at the end of the day, when all of our stuff was needing to be charged, it was easy to get in the tent, and you could charge 3 items at one time with this. We would charge our phones, our Garmin, and the GoPro simultaneously, and it was a quick charge too. This is one of the nice features about this Anchor. Did a lot of research before heading out on the trail on which one to get. Not only does this charge the brick up quickly, but it will charge your devices quickly. So our phones, you know, when you plug in your smartphone and it says it's on a quick charge, we'd plug it into our Anchor in the tent at night. Our phone would say it's quick charging, and it wouldn't take long at all to charge any of our items. So a really good product. You know, I would call that a luxury item because the weight, probably one of the heaviest pieces of gear we had.
But it worked well.
But it worked great.
We'd go into town, we'd recharge.
Yeah, it didn't take any time to recharge this at a hotel in town, or, you know, we stopped in Twin Lakes for a little while and didn't stay there overnight. The Twin Lakes General Store has outlets outside. They allow hikers to use. Great stop on the trail. They're very hiker friendly there. You can charge up all your gear outside, but other places as well. You know, I can't think of any place that wouldn't allow you to charge up your products in town. The Outfitters, the hot springs we stayed at, you know, they have a store. They'll all happily let you charge your gear. But when you don't have access and you're on trail for those 3 to 5 days at a time, a brick is definitely the way to go. This thing worked great, performed flawlessly. Love it. It might have been overkill, But again, it was one of those areas we knew we were going to be power happy, and we wanted to keep everything charged up. So this thing worked great. I will definitely say that we should continue to hike with this wherever we go, just to keep all of our items charged up and not have any questions whatsoever.
And of course, we had all our cords that went with.
Yeah, you had a cord for everything. They're
For your
all
devices.
it's USB to a micro USB. So your phone cord. We have Samsung phones. Our phone cords, you plug it into your phone, and then you plug the USB into the brick. The Garmin, same thing. It has a micro port, and then a USB straight into the brick. And then the GoPro, micro in the camera, and then USB here on the port. Or it would also charge the dual battery chargers, built the same way. It has a micro with a USB, and we could charge 2 batteries at the same time. So this thing worked great. I was real happy with this purchase. Definitely would highly recommend it.
And with the weight, worth the
For
carry.
2 people, the 26.8. For 1 person, you could probably go with a little less, no doubt. But we were 2 people, 2 phones.
Yeah.
So and they did get used a lot. So yeah, the Anchor powered cord plus 26.8 PD for 2 people, perfect. No problems at all. A single person, you could go with less, but do your homework. Find something that will keep you juiced up for 3 to 5 days, because that's on average what you're going to be doing on the Colorado Trail. Definitely worth every penny though. And alright, we got one more video after this one. It's going to be the questions and answers, a Q&A video. So if you guys still have questions, send them to us. We're going to be getting to that video soon. We definitely have a big list of questions already, so it'll be fun to sit down and look at those questions again and answer them the best we can. Thank you to everybody for following along. This was a great adventure for us, and we're glad to share it with you guys. Highly recommend, if you can get out there and hike the Colorado Trail. If you can't do it all at once, do it in segments. It's beautiful Colorado at its finest. You go from the plains to the peaks and back again. There's places on the Colorado Trail that you will just get completely lost. And not lost as in I don't know where I'm at, but just lost in beauty. It's fascinating trail. It's beautiful out there, and we highly recommend it. Everybody should at least do a section. Get down in the San Juans and just see the beauty of Colorado at its finest. So, all right, one more video, questions and answers,
Okay.
coming soon.